Hello, hello! Welcome back to the fourth video of my Plaguetober 2022, I think, video series. I'm currently sick. It took me a while to complete this drawing because I was very bedridden. Had been for a while. So unfortunately, this will be the last one, but I'm kind of surprised I managed to get 4 out. I'm having to record and upload this on Halloween, because I don't want it to be, like the November during a October-related thing, so, this is the Flatwoods monster. I'm going to try, I'm doing that thing where I have a lot of information on my head. I'm trying to parse out what to do first. First off, I did not do very, very heavy research into this for 2 reasons. One, I've been sick, so, just haven't really had the chance. 2, this is a fairly well-known monster. You're going to find a lot of information on this, so getting it for me is not really going to do you much good. So, there's plenty of documentaries and stuff to go watch on this. The Flatwoods community is really dialed into this monster as well. It's a big part of their, tourism and so forth and so on. So, a lot of it is just there for the taking. So, if you want it, go get it, baby. So, for my purposes, I'll just try to stick to my guns and talk about big old titties, or something like that. Flatwoods monster, I'll explain a little bit about it later. For now, I'm trying not to cough as I talk, which is very difficult. And also, I'm hoping that the dogs outside will not start barking at each other again, because I already had to destroy 2 other recordings because they could not stop screaming at the top of their lungs. Alright, anyways. Happy Halloween, by the way. The idea with the Flatwoods monster is presumably, and I'm jumping ahead here, some rednecks maybe saw, sorry, West Virginia. I'm also a redneck, don't worry. I'm not just calling you out on it. We're all in this shit together. We all live in America. Some rednecks saw a barn owl in the 1950s. This is the logic of it. We don't actually know what it was, presumably, but one of the most common things is that it was a barn owl. So that's the idea that I'm running with for this project. And they misinterpreted its shape in the mist, in the fog of war, as being a big alien. And you can go find the pictures that they drew of this thing. But basically it has like a big metal skirt. It sort of tapers around the waist into like rivets almost. Or not rivets, whatever, like threads, like bolt threads in a way. And then it goes up into a sort of a metal sheet, and it has long gangly arms that have claws on the end, and it has sort of a spade-shaped head. And it has red eyes. And sometimes it's said to have a red face, or a green face, or a green body. It just depends. It's one of those things. So, here, if you're wondering about the primary here, basically, it's just such a very specific kind of design solution that I'm just trying wild things in an effort to try to figure out what exactly would work best in doing all these things combined. Because this idea in this drawing is... the concept is... someone seeing a barn owl and misinterpreting it as an alien, and then taking that idea and turning it into a monster girl that is an owl that is being seen by someone and being misinterpreted as being a monster girl alien. That might just be a normal alien. I don't know. Anyways. And in addition to that, I'm going with the idea that the monster is not hostile. She's just like a dork. And she is just as surprised by the person as they are of her. But she's nervous and socially awkward because she's a monster and she doesn't run into actual human beings in the woods. So as a result, she doesn't know how to handle the situation, and she ends up coming across way more scary than she actually otherwise would be. So, there you go. So if you get to the final pictures, like, why is her expression so awkward? It's because she's like a dork. She has no idea what she's doing. I'm going to be drinking a lot to avoid coughing. Okay. And like I said before, in the process of doing this drawing, this obviously is not going to be part of the final drawing. This is just sort of me, not like sort of like thumbnailing. I'll explain that briefly. Whenever you thumbnail things, sometimes you're just like drawing little bitty pictures that, they're just like little notebook sketches that you don't care about. And they're just sort of there to help you mentally do some like little light exercises to work out exactly what it is that you're wanting to do. And this is the point where I sort of think, okay, I think I'm done with this phase, and then I start the actual attempt at drawing. So here we go. Where I start getting way more aggressive, and I start actually trying to do perspective and all this other stuff. Although she ends up at first looking a little bit more insane. I forgot about that. Also, I cannot laugh during this video. Laughing is the one thing that absolutely will make me cough. Ooh, calm down. The Flatwoods Monster. The idea of the Flatwoods Monster is it occurred in West Virginia back in the 1950s. In the town of Flatwoods, obviously. And it's a big part of the town's tourism to this day. From what I gather, and I'm going to be mixing what really happened with sort of the idea of this, but presumably around that time there was a meteor shower happening. Maybe. Again, this is one of those go watch a documentary things, although I'm sure a documentary is going to be, who knows what really happened, and it'll just be a bunch of stupid bullshit. So, just find a good one, I guess. One that acknowledges that, hey, a big scary alien that runs around in the woods trying to spook children probably didn't exist, because why would it be doing that? And instead tries to approach it from more of a rational aspect. Try to find that. Just do me a favor, try to find that one. I didn't have time to research this video because I've just been completely KO'd because of this flu that I have. But during the course of this meteor shower thing, a lot of kids in the area that were, of course, still outside playing, apparently, during the middle of the night. Not the middle of the night, just I guess 7 or 8 or something. It was getting dark from my understanding. Noticed this streak across the sky, and apparently something did hit some area, because while the story often concentrates on 3 kids and a dog at first, a lot of other kids just start showing up. So presumably, this is there before cell phones, obviously, so they can't text each other, do you see that? They're obviously going to be gathering together because they all recognize the same disruption. So presumably, something blew up or a meteor slammed into a sausage factory or something. I just made up sausage factory. That's not. Damn it. Sorry. I don't know why I thought sausage factory was so funny. God damn it. But the story usually starts out with 2 of the kids who are 2 brothers and their friend that were playing outside, seeing one of these red streaks across the sky, so presumably a meteor. Maybe it actually did hit something, or the more likely thing is, usually with meteors, they will break up just as they're about to hit the Earth. I'm not sure of the scientific reasons. It probably has something to do with nearing the ground and the density of the air, or something relative to that. I'm not sure what exactly. I'm bullshitting there, but But often they will explode well before that. Most of them, of course, will just burn up in the atmosphere, and you just see the light, and that's it. But sometimes they're just big enough that a little bit of it will hold its integrity just long enough to break out completely and explode, or sometimes something will hit the ground, but it's usually very, very small. So whenever you actually see meteor falls from space, it'll be this itty-bitty thing. Because in order for something much larger than that to actually survive, it has to be massive. So you can imagine something that could cause like a extinction level event actually managing to hit the Earth with enough force to basically wipe out life. You can imagine how enormous something like that has to be. It has to be like, the size of Texas as it nears Earth. Otherwise it gets burned up pretty well. Anyways, I'm getting... Who fucking cares? God, I'm just as nerdy as she is. So, the kids see this, they ride off on their bikes because they're in a fucking Stephen King 1980s novel, I guess. Along with their mascot character that's in the basket on the front of their bikes. Actually, they rode with her dog, that's true. And it's not much of a story. See if I can get this correct. Yes, okay. They ran to where they thought that the light had landed, because presumably they saw a pulsing red light sort of streaking, which tells me that if they actually did see that, retroactive memory can create anything, so who knows. That maybe the meteor had broken up and you're actually seeing the remnants of it drifting or something. Or it could have just been an airplane at that point, who knows. Or it could have been some sort of experimental thing that was going on at the time. But they run up to this area, they are looking at the general area. The dog runs ahead, starts barking, and then runs back with its tail between its legs for whatever its reasons. Dogs never get scared. It must be an alien. Dogs puss out sometimes. I'm sorry, dog community, but sometimes you're pussies. Let's face it. You're human just like we are. Dogs. Anyways. And it seemed like there's one more bit to that. I can't quite remember. I can't remember if this is the same group or not. But let's see. No. I can't remember if that group actually saw anything or not. Or if they just fled the moment that their dog ran backwards. But either way, I think they may or may not have seen something. Again, watch a documentary. You're here for Monster Girl things and to fast forward past this to when I complete the video, because you don't actually give a shit. Look, I know. I'm gonna make an animation soon, I promise. As soon as I get past commissions and all this other stuff. I'll get back to it. Because I'll draw the titties, I'll do the commentary. You'll listen to it, half paying attention, because you just want something to do when you're washing the dishes or whatever. And then you might look at the picture and be like, nice. And then that's it. And I might say one or two funny things and you'll clap your hand. Ha ha ha, funny man. And then you'll feel good for like a second. That's the business deal that we have going on, okay? I'm not the greatest source for information on this, especially when I'm sick and cantankerous. Anyways. Yes, okay. There was a National Guard member that, by the name of Gene Lemon, who was 17 at the time, so pretty young, very impressionable. Also probably pretty scared, because imagine being 17 years old in 1952, just after the end of World War II, just after atomic bombs became a thing. So your worldview is changing drastically. The population of your country has dropped a bit, I would say, even in the United States. Feel probably a bit more alone, have not been raised by the same kind of community that your parents, grandparents would have had, certainly. And this is also during the era of science fiction slowly eroding the cowboy era of entertainment. So as a result, there's way more of a focus on scary science fiction weird things happening, because that's a reflection of what was happening in society. Society was sort of scared by new advancements in science. And, the atomic bomb, definitely scary advancement in science, I would say. So this is at the peak of, not hysteria, but, just fear of the unknown coming from things that are seen as being more realistic and less fantasy. So, he goes out into the woods, from my understanding. Again, watch a fucking documentary. He sees what he thinks are bright eyes in a tree, and then he screams and falls backwards, and a gigantic monster with a bloody red body and a green face or a red face. It depends. Like, I've read 5 different accounts and they all say different things. Swoops down at him and has claws for hands. So you can imagine a barn owl. He looks up and sees a barn owl, and it's... I don't know if barn owls' eyes are reflective like this, but if he's shining a flashlight directly at them, and he's like, "Oh no, I might see an alien," and I think even later he said that he was going out there looking for something, expecting to find something. And he goes out there looking for an alien, and he shines his light up at a barn owl, and he sees these bright eyes in a tree. And he doesn't know what it is at first, and apparently, according to him, it's also very foggy. Then I imagine for a moment it might freak him out, and he falls backwards. And after that happens, the barn owl might, freak itself out and be like, I'm gonna get out of here. And so as a result, it flies off in the only direction it can go, which is, of course, forward. And it goes towards him, and it has to dive down in order to gain enough momentum to fly back up and to get away. So it has to dive towards him for a split second. And by the time this guy recovers off the ground, he looks up and he sees those same eyes swooping down towards him, and it sees its feet, but they're uplifted because it's a bird. So it kind of looks like arms from his perspective, and it swoops up and flies away, and maybe it even makes a cute hooting noise. Hoot hoot, just like that. And he describes it as a shrill, nightmarish hoot of the damned, or whatever. I don't know what the hell was going through Mr. Lemon's mind that particular day. But that, according to him, was a monster. So you can see where this came from. I think maybe several other people, I think, claim that they saw something that night. This is actually fairly common, because whenever something weird happens atmospherically, or relative to a storm or whatever, if there's a meteor shower, lots of people will have the same experience of seeing something weird in the sky. And because humans are human beings, it is pretty common for us to see something unusual and to think of it as being more mysterious or unusual than it actually is. So, someone seeing something like that and they're like, "It's an alien," or "It's my ex-wife," or whatever they're doing. This is fairly common. So whenever you get a bunch of people doing that, they're all having their own individual unrelated experiences. It's pretty common for if someone sees like ball lightning in the sky and like 5 other people do, everyone eventually is like, oh yeah, I also saw something strange. I don't know what it was. And also, human beings are very good at group thinking. And they're also good at editing their own memories and confirmation bias and so on. And this is like the most interesting part about these sort of stories to me. Like, sometimes just something weird, they did see something weird. Like, it's confirmed that there are unidentified aerial phenomenon is what they're called now, I think. UAPs, not UFOs. They changed the term for them. Because there are lots of things in the sky that we still don't know exactly what they are. I mean, hell, they've discovered new forms of lightning recently that we didn't know existed within the last 20 or so years. And there's weird atmospheric things that only happen for milliseconds, but the human eye can still pick it up sometimes. And that's enough for wild stories to get invented. Just all sorts of weird things like that happen. But because of that sort of group thought, if a bunch of people will come together and all start telling these weird individual stories together, they will hear each other's stories and then start trying to constitute them into their own story. Because they're trying to legitimize their experience, and they're also trying to rationalize how their experience may not conform to one another's. So, whereas if you took them in isolation, and this is one of the reasons why I say, this just comes to mind. Like whenever people are accused of something in a police investigation, the police will keep suspects separated so that they can't, confirm their stories together. So even if the suspects are not overtly lying about something, and you don't want them constructing a story together, you also gain an advantage as an investigator by allowing them to recount their stories, and they're only human, so they can only do it so perfectly. And whenever they recount it with very small differences, and they're not in the same room to be like, well, no, that's not true, this happened. And then the other one goes, oh, yeah, that. Whenever they can't do that, you can then later go, well, your person said this, and you can really focus in on that one thing, even though from a human storytelling standpoint, because we're fallible, it really didn't mean anything. But as an investigator, you can really nail into it and try to create the conditions for them to make even more mistakes in how they're recounting information as you make them tell the same story over and over and over again. There's investigative techniques that I'm not aware of. I'm not that privy to that sort of thing. I just know that it's a thing that is also really interesting. I like watching true crime stuff from time to time, but I'm certainly not JCS. You're not going to be able to get expert information about that from me. It is out there, and that is also relative. Human psychology stuff, no matter the form, is always pretty interesting to me. Anyways. So I imagine that a lot of these people were all telling their stories to one another, and to the media. And over time, it sort of congregated into a more solidified general idea of what it must have been. And then as a result of that, you get a more standardized, formatted story. So, when it comes to these, cryptid... Yeah, more specifically cryptid. Less monsters. This sort of phenomena is more of an American thing, in a way, because, old monster tales, of course, sometimes are, based on weird stories, like the last thing, the otter monster that I was talking about in the prior video. That seemed to have been based mainly off of a single story from one or two guys, and that's it. And is used to explain the death of a real woman that happened at some point, although the myth of it also existed at some point. And it could have been like a murder or something, I wasn't really sure. but it's a limited experience. The totality of the information that you have to gather from is very, very limited. And that's not even factoring in like the fact that it is historical and it's so far away, removed from everything, that the true context of it all is just totally lost, and we can only guess. This is different in the sense that something like the Flatwoods monster thing is a big, town-wide, almost statewide, county-wide at least, experience that was shared across many, many different people. But still not so huge of a group, because let's face it, it seems like the amount of people that claim that they really saw something is fairly limited to about like 20, 30 people. And that's being generous. And flu made me lose my train of thought. And whenever you have that many people, it does cause that sort of congregation effect. Especially whenever you have a bunch of media personnel out there. Okay, that's what I was trying to get to. Ooh, gosh, the brain fog is pretty intense. All these people together, all talking to the media at the same time, also makes it so that it's pretty human for people to want to also contribute something. So you'll have people go, well, I think I saw something. Yeah, I also saw something. And then it has this also sort of, I don't know what they call it, but you know how whenever sometimes it's a known thing that if someone is talking to a psychologist or psychiatrist, I think. Yeah, psychiatrist. Or like a, mental therapist. And they, I don't know, undergo like a hypnosis therapy or something is the most famous version of this. But you don't necessarily even need that. Then sometimes they can actually implant false memories and encourage them to go, well, was there like molestation at home from your parents or something? And there actually wasn't. But just over time of them just talking to them about it, they start inventing memories or saying, yeah, maybe there was. That sort of experience. Not that I'm saying that always happens or anything, but, just that's just a known thing that happens sometimes. That sort of thing can also just happen with this ordinary stuff like this. Where, yeah, maybe something did happen, and they just start inventing things in their head. The reporters say, well, did this happen? Do you think that it may have been an alien? And then the person who otherwise normally would go, no, I don't saw some weird thing in the sky. Because everyone else is like, oh man, I saw an alien. And the reporters are like, give us some information about aliens. Then they may be more inclined to go, yeah, it was an alien. Because it was definitely an alien. It's not a surprise to me that things like this get started. The way that groups think things like this is really interesting to me. It always makes me think of those instances of... it's happened multiple times, but the one that I always think of happened in France. And it's been too long since... It's been years since I've read about it, so I don't remember it offhand. But those cases of people going into mass hysteria and dancing themselves to death. It reminds me of stuff like that. Because there's not really an explanation for why people were doing that. For some degree of context, I can't remember enough about this. Go look it up. France Dance of Death, I suppose, be the best way to search of this. You'll find it pretty easily. It's a famous thing. But basically, there were very troubled times in which resources were scarce, and people were very frustrated, I think even politically and socially. And one of the main ways that they had to... I think this also happened in, like, South America in some place. I can't quite remember. It's been, like, a decade since I read about it. But this is presumably this was the one way that they could vent their frustrations of it becoming sort of a manifested like social madness. So one or two people will start doing it, and then other people would pick up on it, and it would become almost socially acceptable to be socially unacceptable, I suppose. And dancing was like something innocuous that was not really disruptive and almost sort of enchanting to other people. So it was almost sort of like a protest that was not a protest, if that makes any sense. This is sort of my way of looking at it. The psychological reasons for why it happened, because people did dance themselves to death. Like, they died in the process of doing it. The whole process for it psychologically is really interesting. This is part of that groupthink that people do. We are communal animals, and we are very easily shaped by our perceptions of what the people around us also think. Like even that dog that was whimpering, it could have been that it was just picking up on the weird vibes that the kids were getting. And whenever it caught wind of something unusual, maybe like a smell or something that it didn't like, and it didn't know what it was in particular, and it realized that its owners were not around, then maybe it got freaked out just enough, because let's face it, it was a pussy. It's a pussy dog. That one dog, pussy. Yeah, it makes some degree of sense. Makes a lot more sense than a UFO landing in the middle of West Virginia, and then the pilot getting out and then just running around going, ooga booga booga, ooh, and then scaring like 8 kids and then one very young National Guardsman, and then getting back in its ship and we're like, alright, guess I'll travel 500 quadrillion light years back home. That was fun. It makes no sense, right? Also, I'm pretty sure... Where was it? I'm trying to find it. Yeah. One of the quotes was from John Gibson, who was a high school freshman. He knew all the kids, like, personally, and his quote that I enjoyed was, "One of the boys peed his pants." There's nothing clever about that. I love the fact that this is a guy that apparently personally knew them, and he's like, one of the first things he says is, "They were cowards and they peed." You don't have to add them like that. It's kind of uncool, isn't it? But I appreciated all the same John Gibson. Thank you. Their dog Ricky ran with his tail between his legs. I guess that proves that it was an alien. I don't know. I was walking around before doing this, my sleep has been really screwed up by my whole sickness thing. So I got like 6 hours of sleep, which still felt okay. But I woke up at some weird hour in the morning, and I realized, I really don't have enough time to do anything. But I was just stumbling around, like, I got some really nasty White Castle slider burgers, like frozen ones, to heat up, because you can do those in like 1 minute. To eat something really fast, so I could rush over here and start recording, to try to start rendering in order to get this out as quickly as possible, right? And I was just wandering around thinking about rednecks out in the woods, trying to interpret science and things that they don't understand. And for some reason I started thinking about Quantum Leap. Then I thought up this idea of, what if it was like a couple of rednecks that were quantum leaping through different scenarios, and they thought that they were quantum leaping, like they were helping. But instead of like going to the past to help people change their lives for the better so that you can leap again, so you can make your way home. Instead, it was their mission to just leap exclusively to the future to show the future people how bad it used to be. To like be a really bad representative of humanity instead. I don't know, maybe it's because I had just woken up and I was feeling a little bit crazy. I was like giggling to myself about this. Just them showing up and educating the future on something, and they think they do a good job, and all the people that are around them are just horrified because of these like stereotypical bigoted rednecks that are like afraid of minorities and are like, you make sure you protect your kin against the evils of it's a good thing there are no national borders anymore. I'm not going to go down that road. But you can imagine the things that I was muttering to myself in my kitchen. And then just them leaping away and everyone around them just being like, oh my god. And them like giving a thumbs up. We're on our way to help more people in need. I don't know. It was funny to me at the time. Now it's just kind of sad. More importantly, this owl girl is a complete dork. The perspective of it, I tried to make sure that it had that same narrative of the guy seeing something in the trees and then it's swooping down and scaring him, and it was just an owl the whole time. So that's what this is. Originally I was going to have it be more of a canopy of branches, but I decided I wanted there to be like the original idea with the pose of this was I wanted the body to be almost completely blacked out, so that the main thing that you were seeing was the profile, like the shape, like that sort of spade-headed shape, along with the clawed arms and like that sort of skirt, that fan skirt shape, so that you get that exact alien profile that people described. But you can see just enough of the body that you can actually make out that, oh, it's like an owl. So the solutions that I was going for was the metal skirt was actually the tail feathers. So the guy probably saw enough of that he understood, it must have been like a weird metal skirt or something, but it was actually just tail feathers. And of course the talons were the hands, the shape of the head, and maybe like a feather standing up was the shape of the like the sort of helmet that he saw. And of course the eyes were the eyes. Him seeing the face as being either green or red could have just because barn owls have very reflective, looking faces because they're very bright. So him shining a flashlight directly at it could have just been that as well. Or even if he was like halfway holding the flashlight up at that point because he was on the ground, and it's sort of scatter lighting off of the fog that he presumably was surrounded by, also could have been a part of it. You get the idea. It doesn't matter. Point being is that it didn't happen. Like I said, there are tons of documentaries about this stuff, so have at it. One thing that I did pick up on in reading a bit about it, because I did get a little bit of reading in before. I started this whenever I felt a tingle in my throat, and I thought, this better not be something. At first I thought that I'd just done something, like I had swallowed something not great. And it didn't really seem like it was much of anything until a few days in. Like when did I have this? I think I got it on like Sunday or something. And then by the time it hits by the time it hit Tuesday, then it's like, oh, this is not good. So I tried to get as much done as I could. And then Wednesday and Thursday, I was just completely killed. And then I spent like Friday and Saturday trying to catch up. And to finish it off, although that was really rough. So I had kind of 4 days where I was just in a really bad state. Anyways. But in the process of trying to do a little bit of research on this, something I did pick up on was the fact that the more that the people in the surrounding area were interviewed, the more they realized that they could make money off of it. Like, that seems to be a consistent story that was sort of painted by people. And, of course, that continues to this day. It's a sort of a little tourist town, in addition to just being an ordinary, small West Virginia town. And I can't blame anyone from West Virginia. It's West Virginia. You guys have quite possibly the most corrupt, evil politicians in all of America, which is saying a lot. That's a lot to take in. And it's not like West Virginia has this bustling economy to go alongside it or anything, So, if a little West Virginia town wants to be like, an owl was actually an alien, have at it. And you want to make some toys and stuff to sell them to people and just have a good time with the Flatwoods monster? Yeah, go for it. Sounds like a good idea to me. Because have fun. And there's even I even found a couple of examples of people that said, I don't believe anything happened. It was just a ridiculous made-up story. The people were scared out of their minds, but I don't believe it was actually any substance to it. And the guy telling them this is like an old man that's selling Flatwood Monsters memorabilia from his shop. That's sort of the narrative to me. Just the fact that, sure, maybe most of them are aware that this was nothing, but it's something that was financially profitable and it was fun. And to me, a lot of this stuff, that's what it comes down to, is a lot of the times people realize that it is something that is completely made up, but it's still fun. And to me, that's sort of the positive side of like conspiracy thinking, I suppose. Because the darker side of that, of course, is people will often know in the back of their minds that things are not real, or what they're saying is completely fraudulent, but they need to believe it. Like with conspiracy theories, like I'm very, oh, is he going to talk about that? No, I don't care. But just having been raised by a conspiracy theory parent that was obsessed with this thing, and that's what got him killed. The reason why that seems to attract people like him in his case, not everyone, is it gives them a sense of control in their lives. Like they really want control, and they feel powerless because the world itself is extremely complicated. And it's a very scary place. Here we go, final drawing. By the way, I changed her eyes to red because I realized, usually it's depicted as having red eyes, and I also realized the whole image itself is also very neutral and kind of orange and browns, and I thought this will help it pop out a bit. So there we go. I also tried to make sure... I was trying to say I originally wanted most of the body to be blacked out, but I realized that it would make it so that there was just not much going on in the image, so I tried to make it more even. And I have been lately getting too obsessed with making contrast really heavy, so I decided, you know what, I'm going to pull back on that, and I'm just going to make a normal drawing. I'll just make it nice this time. So, here we go. Pretty owl girl. But anyways, the dark side of that is like conspiracy theories. People will desire control in their lives because the world is a scary place, and they want to be able to understand it. And if you take something that is ordinarily extremely complicated and reduce it down to a silly thing that you can control and hold in your hands, like the world is flat, because there's too many factors otherwise and you don't really understand it, and the feeling of being in the know when all the stupid people believe the thing that they're told to believe, then it gives you a sense of control and makes you feel powerful, even though in the back of your mind you know it's asinine. That's the most extreme version. The more playful version is whenever we have stuff like this, where sure, it was probably nothing, but hey, what if it was something? And that's fun. And as long as you don't let it change your life. I was listening to a video yesterday of a guy who, like, you can find this probably pretty easily. A guy that was really good at engineering and mechanics, and he, like, lost his head at some point, and became obsessed with the idea that aliens were talking to him. So he, like, step one was he built, like, a clubhouse for him and his friends. And it was in the shape of a flying saucer. And it had, like, a wood stove in it to power it. And he was adamant that he was going to take off into space. Not using that, but via some other method. Aliens were going to come get him. And then eventually he vanished, and they found his pickup truck out in the middle of the woods, exploded, and fragments of human bone. But he was gone. Whether I couldn't... I thought for sure that they would have tested that bone to see that it was his, but I never saw a confirmation of it. So whatever happened to him, I guess we don't quite know, but it seemed like he went out into the woods with a crazy notion that he was going to blast off in the outer space with his alien buddies, and he just blew himself up. Anyways, as long as you don't turn into a guy like that obliterates your life because you're having a little bit too much fun with an idea, and you had some other stuff going on in your life that you did not address, then yeah, have yourself a Flatwoods monster evening. Have yourself a happy Halloween, because the nice thing about having a scary experience is that you can tell it to me, and I'll turn it into a big-breasted, furry creature that is partially insinuated to maybe be sexually aggressive. And although I didn't draw it, you know that in the back of those bushes, there's probably going to be a suspicious egg, because there always needs to be a suspicious egg. Anyways, have you guys a nice little Halloween experience. Hopefully you'll be able to watch this on Halloween. If you see it on November 1st, or never, or if never, fuck you, asshole. You can't hear me anyways. You can't fight back. If you watch this later, thank you very much for participating in a little thing. I'm going to get back to the commissions, and then after that, I will finally be able to start my new project of actually working on very short animation ideas. I hope. Oh my god, I hope. If I can stop being sick and interrupted by things every 2 seconds. Anyways, see you guys in the next video, which will probably actually be that video essay, which will be 2 hours long. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. Anyways, see you guys next time. Bye-bye.